My dear brothers, sisters, elders, and youngsters, it is well known that when an individual traverses upon a journey in which he or she hopes to find success, that on this journey or on this mission of theirs, there are necessary elements that allow them to succeed. And without them, success becomes quite distant. They require family assistance, family support, family push, a comfortable family that can push and support them. They require financial support. They require institutional support. They require mental support. And with all of these elements, an individual can seek success in their mission of life. And without these elements, it becomes quite difficult. The movements are there. The pushing and moving and the hustle and bustle is quite present, but we struggle to find success without family support, institutional support, financial support. However, one of the greatest success stories of humankind is about an individual who lacked in all of those spheres, who lacked in all of those genres and areas. When it came to family, his own father removed him from the home. When it came to finance, there was nothing to be seen. When it came to community support, that same community that saw him grow up and raised him was the community that lit a fire that they could throw him within. That same community that saw him become the man he was, wished for him to burn alive. The same father which raised him said to him that if you continue preaching what you preach and speaking about what you speak about and believing in what you believe in, and that means that we have to go our separate ways. وَهْجُرْنِي مَلِيًّا لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ وَهْجُرْنِي مَلِيًّا. Either I will stone you and shame you, or you leave and never come back. The same individual who for 80 years has no lineage, has no family, has no children, becomes the father of every religion, becomes the father of all the prophets. From his lineage comes Ishaq, and from the lineage of Ishaq comes all the prophets that come to Bani Israel. And from his lineage comes the blessed Ismail. And from his blessed lineage comes our Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Hence the Prophet sallallahu says, أَنَا دَعْوَةُ وَالِدِ Ibrahim. I am the accepted supplication of my father Ibrahim alayhi salam. So if all of these factors, which are necessary factors of success, were absolute in his life, what allowed him to succeed? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذْ قَالَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ أَسْلِمْ. When Allah looked at him and said, Aslim, submit yourself. Submit your life, your desires, your wishes, your intellect, your rationality, your goals, your objectives. Submit them to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And his instant response was, Aslamtu. I have submitted myself. It wasn't that I will submit myself, or I will think about it and gather enough content to see whether or not it's worth it. Aslamtu li Rabbil Alameen. The difference between a believer and a munafiq, a believer and a hypocrite, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alludes to in the Quran, is our response time. What is our response time? A believer's response time is instantaneous. When they hear the adhan, they go to the masjid. إِذَا نُودِيَ لِلصَّلَاةِ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْجُمْعَةِ فَاسْعَوْا إِلَىٰ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Turn towards the masjid. The difference between Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and all the other sahabas was his instantaneous response that he had. The moment the Prophet called him towards Allah, he accepted. There was no delay, there was no glitch, there was no hesitation, there was no reluctancy. And hence he became the greatest companion. And the hypocrites, rather, on the opposite end of the spectrum, they wait and they delay. And hence Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says that a sign of a great act, or rather the greatest sign of an act that is accepted in the eyes of Allah, is when the intention and the action have a small window, where there's no large gap between the intention and the action itself. Because the moment we leave a window open and there's a gap, this is where shaitan finds his place to work. And on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about this difference between believers and those that delayed, and the hypocrites, where there will be a wall, فَضُرِبَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِسُورٍ لَهُ بَابٍ. There will be a wall that will be dropped between believers and those that were people that delayed. And then the people will say, يُنَادُونَهُمْ أَلَمْ نَكُمْ مَعَكُمْ. The hypocrites will say, "O believers, why are we on different sides of this wall? Were we not with you? Were we not with you on the journey of believing in Allah and praying and doing all the acts of goodness? And we were with you side by side." And the response will come, "Bala, you are quite right. We were together. We were side by side. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ." But you delayed in your response time and changing your life. You delayed in the response time of making the intention become an action. You delayed in the response time of all of those goals that you had given to Allah and allowing that to become a reality in our life. We delayed. And when we delayed, وَارْتَبْتُمْ, there was doubt that was cemented into our hearts. And when that doubt started creeping in, and when it became cemented, it became difficult to change. So قَالَ أَسْلَمْتُ. The difference that allowed Ibrahim alayhi salam to fight off the power of Namrud and his entire community, to fight off the power of being thrown into a fire. And as he's being thrown in, and the angels are coming to him from all sides, and they say, "Allow us, give us a sign, an indication that you want us to take this fire away and extinguish it. Give us a sign that you want us to destroy these people, and we will do it." And Ibn Kathir rahimahullah says that Ibrahim alayhi salam would say, "Have you been sent by Allah, or are you coming on your own?" And they would say, "No, we've just come on our own because it seems that you need help." He says, "No, I will wait for Allah's response." And hence, the response of Allah was directly to the fire. قُلْنَا يَا نَارِ. We spoke directly to the fire. That, "O fire, كُونِي بَرَدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ." Become a place that is cool and peaceful for Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma says, the moment this announcement and this order was made, every single fire in the world became cool. Not knowing who Allah is speaking to, and out of fear that even for a moment they may be disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every fire accepted that command. And his journey continues, where he leaves his land and he travels to Egypt and goes to Palestine. And now he is blessed with Hajar alayhi salam, and they're given a child in Ismail, and the command has been given that I want you to continue your journey. And I want you to continue traveling. And he continues and he reaches a land min ghayri dhi zar'in 'inda baytika al-muharram. A land in which there is no sign of life. There are no humans. There are no animals. There is no water. There is nothing there. And he has been told that now you leave your family here in return. When we migrate from our countries, Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, Syria, Palestine, Egypt, we don't migrate from a place that has a better setting of life for us to a life that is lower. We leave to seek a better life. Our parents came here to find a better life, to find peace and security. When we travel and leave our families and places, we leave them with loved ones, people that can take care of them and look after their needs. Ibrahim alayhi salam and his family is leaving the gardens of Palestine, the orchards of Quds, and being left in a desert of a place. And he's been told that he cannot even speak, and he has to return. Aslamtu, I submit. I submit doesn't mean that I will think about it and then say yes. I submit means how we do with our contracts, that I accept all clauses and conditions. If it comes with sacrifice of time, I accept it. If it comes with sacrifice of family, I accept it. If it comes with sacrifice of anything, Ya Allah, this is what will make me unique in your eyes. This will what will allow our Prophet to love us. Ki Muhammad se wafa tune to hum tere hain. Ye jahan cheez hai kya lawh wa qalam tere hain. And he lets the family rest and stay there. And they follow him for 5 miles to a land called Dayya. And then finally Hajar alayhi salam says to him, Allahu amarak, is this the command of your Lord? Is this the command of Allah? When we have conflict in our family, our communities, what is our point of reference? If our point of reference is conflicting, or if we have numerous points of reference, then we will have challenges in making a decision. And we will have challenges in accepting a decision. The point of reference has to be one. And that is Allah happy with me? Will Allah be pleased with this decision? When the point of reference becomes consistent, then decision making becomes easy. Because we have something that we can refer to. She says, is this the command of Allah? And Ibrahim a.s. nods his head. Then she says, إِذَنْ لَن يُضَيِّعَنَ اللَّهُ أَبَدًا. If that is the case, then Allah will never waste us. And she enters into this empty land. And her toddler, who at that time they say was 6 months, she's unable to feed him. And she starts running from one mountain to the other mountain, and the beautiful journey of Safa and Marwa. Her name was Hajar, which was quite indicative to the act that she completed, which was a migration. So Allah gave her the name of Hajar, the person that was the epitome of migration. And she runs from Safa and Marwa and moves back and forth, not looking for any extra support for herself, anything that can grant her enough energy to serve her child. And the child is crying on the side of the desert land. This is against every rational thought a person could have. This is against every calculated decision that we could have. But this is according to the calculated decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when she goes back and forth 7 times, her form of asking and invoking and imploring the mercy of Allah was such that the response was unique. When our du'as and supplications become unique, Allah's response also becomes unique. The response could have been in the form of water from the clouds. The response could have been that some traveler could have came and gave them water. It could have been a normal response. But since the sacrifice was unique and monumental, the response of Allah was also miraculous. Or from the earth where there was no sign of water, He brought this beautiful well of Zamzam. It came from their sacrifice and their submission. Our teachers would say, and they would quote Ghazali rahimahullah and Ibn Qayyim, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved the act of Hajar so much that He did not only preserve where she went from and where she came from Safa and Marwa, but He also preserved how she traveled in between them. Where she walked, we walk. Where she ran, we run. There was no clock keeper there, like the Olympics. There were no cameras who were following every movement of hers. But the cameras of Allah were on. And the clock keeper was Jibreel. So every movement of hers has to be embodied in our journey of Hajj. It was through that sacrifice where the city of Mecca was set and founded. We tell ourselves that we can't set a home without compromising. They were able to found an entire city without compromising a single commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And today, the land of Mecca was not fertilized through wealth, through education. It was fertilized through tears and sacrifice. Today, that land which had no fruits to take care of a family is a land where the entire world continues to go to. What attracts people to that land is not simply the black home that we see as the Kaaba, but the soul of sacrifice that was behind it, and the amount of movements and tears that were shed for it. So if we seek success for our families, let it be that the only standard that we have is not that of dunya, and not that of wealth and security and education. One of the standards that we have to make sure that is cemented into our families is the reference of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the more we sacrifice, the more our home beams with light. The more we sacrifice, the more our children will shine in the eyes of Allah and also in the eyes of this world. This land became Mecca because of the submission of Ibrahim alayhi salam, in the submission of Hajar, in the submission of Ismail. It takes a family to make a difference. It does not take an individual. Hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in regards to protecting ourselves from the fire, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا, that we protect ourselves and our families. Children had a share in this through Ismail. The spouses had a share in this through Hajar and Ibrahim. Everyone has a part in a business becoming successful. Everyone has a part in a community becoming successful, where every portion, where every individual in that family says, how can I also be a part of this family that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Though it's very generic, it's something that we can dig deep within ourselves and say, what can I change? What can I change, and what can I do today to change? The moment we delay is the moment we fall into that same sphere of what the munafiquns were used to do. رَضُوا بِأَن يَكُونُوا مَعَ الْخَوَالِفِ. No one in this world likes to be left behind. We don't like to be left behind when there's a da'wah, when there's a plane to catch. No one likes to be left behind. To an extent that the youngsters today have coined a term for it called FOMO, fear of missing out. We don't like to be left behind. Imagine if we're left behind in the journey of akhirah. So we should not be amongst those that say that tomorrow we will do, but rather be amongst those that say, what sacrifice can I make today to bring a change into our community, to allow the sunnah of Ibrahim alayhi salam to continue living. And he became the founder of this religion, which he named Millat Abikum Ibrahim, huwa sammakum al-Muslimin. He named it after what he was able to apply to his life, which was to submit to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless of what the charge was and what the ask was and what the sacrifice was. It was, is Allah happy? And if that is the case, I'm ready to continue this journey of life so that I can please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah make us amongst these great people. Allow us to be raised with Him. Allow us to be amongst those that can sacrifice for His sake and see the rewards and fruits of it in this life. Allow us to be amongst those that our children can be raised like Ismail and Ishaq and Fatima and Aisha. Allow us to be amongst those parents that can become like Ali and Fatima, where we bring deen first and balance it with dunya, and not dunya first and balance it with deen. The point of reference is one, and hence the decision making becomes easy. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.